Hi everybody, welcome back to another Pianostics video. In today's 15-minute piano lesson, we'll be looking at Bach's French Suite No. 5 in G major, the first movement, the Allemande. I'm going to play it for you now, and then we'll speak about my 4 points in the game plan. Notes don't always come out there as you would like on a keyboard. But yes, that is the gist of the first movement, the opening Allemande of Bach's G major French Suite. The first point that I have is obviously looking at these long and winding phrases in the main melody. We do have these longer held notes that separate us. So if this is our first part of the phrase, then we come to finish it in the second line, and so we finish and we come to this E and arrive here again. So even though it's not part of the main line, it's actually nice to look for what can possibly propel us through so that we don't have a kind of absence in our sound. But actually, our tenor line can really help us out. And as a result, we actually want to hear the tenor line a little bit more prominently and not just focusing on the bass and the melody. Because if that suddenly starts coming out here to help us through, to keep this phrase a little bit longer and to keep everything connected, it's going to sound a little bit manufactured, so that sound suddenly is just popping out with the sole purpose of helping us through, but we don't hear that in the first place. And so thinking about the voicing that way, it does put this right where we want it in terms of the sound that's needed to really guide us through those points where the main melody is having a small break. And that really brings us through. And same thing. Where the melody stops, there are other 16th notes to really bring us through. And they shouldn't only pop out when we need them, but we should really be sure that we're giving proper treatment of those voices in the meantime. I had a very, very good comment once in playing a fugue from a Bach prelude and fugue, and it's not only that you have to only hear the fugue subject coming back again and again and again. It's just that you make sure that you hear it yourself while you're playing everything else. It is not the sole purpose of the fugue to just point out the fugue subject. And that really opened my mind to the importance of balance and voicing in other lines that we don't think would be as important at the moment, but in an instant they will need to pop out and provide us with some help and security so that we can secure the long and winding phrases that we want. And so always be singing and listening intently to the voices that you might be giving a break to while you're focusing on something more important like the main subject. So keep that in mind. We'll go on to our second point by just keeping the motor spinning, and that has to do with kind of having an idea of where you're going next, so that even though you're continuing these 16th notes in this work anyway, the 16th notes are really the motor that's spinning, that it's not just a wheel that has no real direction. We do want to see the larger points of where we're going to be heading. So if we start here, we can, at least in the first half, we can already start to map out a few of the places that we're spinning towards, and then perhaps that wheel may be able to take a short breather. This is where I see more of a canonic and more of a call and response idea here. And so right after we hit the E minor, if my pen wants to start working, yes, go. This is actually one of the places that I start to change the articulation. And it's just my own thing. It's nothing that anyone has to copy or it's not set in stone, because really everything is kind of up to you on what you want to do for your own particular articulation, especially when you get into the repeats. But here, I like to do that to allow a little bit of space. I'm keeping the motor spinning, but I'm also allowing just a little bit of air to get through, because I'm pretty much keeping it legato. That's the first entrance of it. And so if I keep it, we really don't have a breather. And so just this, a little injection of, in those places, is keeping the motor spinning, but it's also giving me just a small point to rest, because if you listen to someone and they're talking and talking and talking, and when there's no change of inflection, everything is so similar, it's very difficult to distinguish what's important, where that person is trying to make a break, where they're trying to make their point. And that's just one way I found of being able to do that. If I see if I can find another part after that. with just a slight thing. And that gives us, gets us situated here on D major, which is where we're headed to in this first section. We head from G major to the dominant to D major, and so I give a brief second, and that's actually a place where we actually only have eighth notes. We don't have a 16th note in kind of pushing us along for a brief moment. Then we do have the 16th note pickup, but that is the other place that I give just a small second, that we move, but we honor the fact that every time we go forward and forward and forward, we need to have a moment of reflection. But nevertheless, we want to keep that motor spinning so that our tension and our storyline does not collapse on us. Repeats, developing the story, is our third point, and as you heard, I do a lot of embellishments that are not written, and of course in these scores the embellishments are not written out. It would usually always be improvised. Had a lot of lessons with the pedagogue and pianist Robert Levin, who is running a Bach competition in Leipzig and really advocates for extensive use of embellishments and always kind of coming up with something new on the spot, so that we're never really tired of finding new ways of inventing the phrase, as long as it's within within the customs of how you would kind of create an embellishment. So it takes some knowledge and some experience hearing how the embellishments are done in this style, and experimenting with it yourself. It's really nice that in this example, this kind of marking means that you want to come from the bottom note, and then have the trill or the roll from it. When I repeat, I do different things. So I add a little thing there. Then I did something where I actually added a D here, and I had not a 16th, but I had a 32nd note there. So I actually added a note value which is faster than what we actually see written. This movement seems to be a little bit more stable in terms of the character throughout. It pretty much maintains firm that we've got this very, very graceful and almost stately movement to it. So when we repeat, we can think about if we want to really go somewhere that we highlighted in a previous example, in a previous repeat of that. So the first time we came to this part, for example, and we kind of come away from the E minor. The next time, if we're trying to really make a positive, more impactful ending that's maybe a little bit more on the bravura side or more on the outgoing side, we can even come in more. And then really grow. And we still have room to move. So we have a lot of different areas where we can bring out the left hand. We see all these voicings that we're going to be aware of because we want to keep our long and winding phrases intact. And we have our motor spinning, our second point, so that we see exactly the places that we want to take time and the places we want to emphasize. And in the background, we keep the pressure up, we keep the tension, and we don't relax so much that things fall apart. And in our repeats, we can almost magnetize the effect of those even more and bring us to where we want to be eventually, either at the end of the first section or at the end of the second section. And these small areas that he has, that usually we can kind of reset our ideas. So Here is a place of reset. This whole area is kind of coming down. And this is a new beginning. So we've got many, many places where we can actually reset our sound, and depending on if we want to keep it quiet, 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 or if we want to build, 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 those repeats, being able to do it twice is allowing us to really change the storyline to basically however we want to develop these phrases with the other 2 points of the game plan in mind. And the evenness in short note values is something that is going to really keep us in line, especially if we just look at the last line. The moment we have unevenness, the moment we have any hesitation, it just sounds like we're reaching for things. We don't really have a clear idea of where we're going. The moment we smooth and we're really paying attention to not only the movement and the sound between the notes, but the space between the notes and how we move our hand. I like to practice sometimes the hands alone so that I can be on a micro level looking, basically looking for that super micro growth if I'm doing a crescendo or I'm doing something in the left hand. Or I'm coming away. I'm going to do it very evenly, and I'm watching for that evenness also to be mimicked in the choreography of my hand as well. So I hope that gives you some nice ideas for this opening Allemande from Bach's French Suite No. 5 in G major, and see you in the next lesson.